For a very long time, mining has been one of the most profitable activities in Elite Dangerous, but that may change very soon. The D2E merch store is open. There are t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, mugs and tote bags with many cool designs. Head down to the link in the video description and get yourself your merchandise today. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. So Frontier is right now running a beta test where they are fixing a lot of issues in the game, a lot of bugs are being ironed out, and they're also investigating some of the more difficult bugs to try and find solutions for it in the future. I'm gonna cover a lot of that and a lot of the good changes they're making in Hello Dave on Monday, but there's one particular change that I wanted to go into a little bit more detail with, because I feel like there's a lot more to it than some of the other changes. And let's dive right into it and let's have a look at the change. And there's this one shown here, and I'm just going to read it out loud. It says, added supply and demand volumes for certain high-end materials. Now trading goods such as void opals is more realistic. Market can still offer high buy prices, but they will be offered less as demand is met. As part of this change, these high-end materials will now be demanded by more specific economy types. This change will affect the following commodities, and they're listing pretty much all the high-end materials. So this is obviously going to have a huge impact on mining, and especially the credit outcome, the credit per hour that we get from mining. First of all, I think that because, as it seems it is right now, well, if a system is in the right state, it will just give you the highest price possible for the materials, regardless of how much is being sold to the station. And it will keep doing that until it goes out of that favorable state. Now, of course, they will have a demand, and as demand is being met, the price will begin to drop. Much more realistic, and I was surprised that this wasn't actually like that already. Now, how is this going to affect mining? Well, obviously, it's going to mean that around the good hotspots and around the good mining spots, the demand is going to be filled very quickly. So we will probably expect that we'll have to travel further, and we'll probably also get less for our cargo, because I don't think we're going to have that many systems that will just be locked at the maximum price as we see right now. So that's going to change the way we fit our ships, because I feel like now, if this change go in, I should say, is not finalized. This is a test, this is a beta test, and this may be added into the main game. We don't know yet. But if it goes into the main game, we would probably have to be forced to fit fuel scoops on our mining ships, because we have to make sure we can actually make it to the cell location, which may now be further away. The current state of the game, you don't really have to fit a fuel scoop, because you can plan your way out of it and get some decent range out of your ship. But now I feel like we have to fit a fuel scoop, and that of course means something else has to go. We need to make room for that fuel scoop. And that means we have to drop another module. That could be a collector, that could be cargo. If you want to go a little bit more balls to the walls, you can go without shields. There are plenty of options, but regardless, it's going to mean that we're going to sacrifice a optional internal slot in order to fit a fuel scoop. Now, if you remove a collector, obviously, well, you're going to be collecting materials faster. You're going to be spending more, slower, I should say. You're going to collect the materials slower. It's going to take you longer to fill your cargo hold. You have to travel further before you can get to the cell location, and at the cell location, you will get a lower price. So it's going to be a pretty hard hit, but not all types of mining is going to be affected equally hard. Well, something like low temperature diamond mining is by far the one that's going to be hit the hardest. And that is because there's pretty much only one location in the game where people do low temperature diamond mining, and that is the triple hotspot in Boran. That means the immediate area around Boran, well, demand will be filled like that, I expect. And we'll have to begin to go out further and further and further, probably to multiple hundred light years, before we begin to find a station that has a good price for us. Then something like laser mining painite is going to be affected less hard, because there are multiple overlapping hotspots for painite, so that's not going to be an as hard hit to credit making as it has been with low temperature diamonds. And the type of mining that's going to be hit the least is definitely core mining, again, because you could spread out a lot more. And I think the way you're going to do core mining in the future is you're going to be a lot more maneuverable. We have to be able to move around to different mining spots a lot more, not like when you're mining, but you have to accept that you can't just find a ring and say, this is my ring and I'm going to stay here. You have to move around as the market changes. This means that as a miner, you will now have to keep a much closer eye on how the market change and where you can get the best prices. And then when you find a station that has a good price, then you will have to go and find a mining location. So it will be much more, I think, changing the prices around, and when you find a place to sell, then find a place to mine, rather than the other way around, as it's often been now, where people find a good place to mine, and then once they're done, then they will begin to worry about where can I actually sell it. So it's kind of going to flip some location selection a little bit on its head compared to where it was now. But even low temperature diamond mining is going to be hit, but void opal mining, core mining is going to be hit. But it's also going to get a small boost, I think. Right now, void opals is by far the most profitable core material, even though it doesn't have the highest galactic average. I mean, at the time of this recording, the galactic average for void opals is 258,000 credits. We could look at other materials like alexandrite, which is 299,000 credits. And there are other materials where we are over 300,000 at galactic averages. There's multiple materials here that have a higher galactic average than void opals. So I think with the new supply and demand, those materials is going to come a lot more into play and be a lot more viable options than it is right now. And that of course means that no longer are we forced to just go for void opals. We can probably begin to go for a lot of the different materials, both so we can have a higher demand at the station because we're spreading out across multiple materials, and hopefully that will mean we will get some better prices. That could potentially mean that, well, you don't no longer forced to find a void opal hotspot. You could pretty much go into any hotspot, but again, it would depend on the prices in the local. Target selection is going to be so important for core mining after this patch comes out, I think. And it's going to be quite interesting. It's definitely something I'll be diving into. But I actually have to give credit to Frontier, because normally when they do a nerf or reduce the income of a good money-making method, they have in the past been nerfing it to the ground. To the point where it's just like outrageously not even worth considering doing kind of nerf. Like the nerf hammer would be really, really real. But what they actually done with this particular change is they are hitting the money making, the type of mining that produces the highest outcome per hour, the hardest, and the one that would be that produces less income per hour, a little bit lighter. They're still going to be hit for sure. But I mean, looking at it right now, a good mining fleet can probably, like a good miner can probably do, let's say, 200 to 300 millions per hour, laser mining low temperature diamonds or painite at the moment. Whereas I think with when it comes to core mining, well, you're probably going to be looking at 150, maybe up to 200 if you're really lucky, because there's a little bit more RNG in core mining. So they're hitting the ones that has the highest output the most to try to kind of align them. And I still think it's going to be a very viable option to go out and mine. It's not going to be like mining is just going to be completely useless after this change. I definitely don't think that's going to be the case. I still believe we're going to make some very healthy credit out of mining after this patch, which I think is nice to see, that if now that they are doing a rebalance of mining prices, that they're not just like nerfing it into the ground so it's no longer profitable. It's very difficult to test this, obviously, because on the beta server, even though the demand is there by just having the new supply and demand in check, it's not going to give a realistic picture of what kind of prices we're going to get, because obviously the amount of people mining on the beta is a lot less. So we can't really do a proper test of this before we go into the server to see how it's going to affect the market, because we have the full supply that we do on the live server. And even when it goes live, it might still be a week or two after this patch goes live before things begin to settle in, because people will have to begin to figure out where do we go now, what do we do, how does this work, and there's going to be a little bit of commotion in the mining communities, I think, in the first couple of weeks after this patch goes live, until things kind of settle down, and then we can begin to analyze the market and figure out what is the best way to do it. Unfortunately, this change, even though it's on the beta server, will be a bit of a shot in the dark. Of course, Frontier has access to a lot more information that we as players don't have, like how much materials are being mined, where it's being sold. I'm a little reluctant to give a guess on the outcome, but I think mining is gonna be put more in line with other money-making activities like passenger missions and that kind of stuff. Which, to be honest, I think is okay. I mean, if we have multiple money-making methods that can still make us in the vicinity I'm going to give a wild guess, which is around 100 to maybe 120, 150 maybe millions per hour doing mining. I think that's kind of the area where we will settle in. I hope that's the area we're going to be settling in at least. Gonna again put it in line with what you can do with passenger missions. So now we again have this state where you have multiple options that kind of make the same-ish amount of credits per hour, so you can go and do the activities that you find the most interesting. Obviously, there's still lots of activities in the game that gets nowhere near this outcome, and hopefully that's something that will be balanced in the future. So what do you think? Do you think Frontier balanced this out quite nicely? Are you just annoyed that Frontier is reducing a money-making method again? Well, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.